Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 4 and Out 135. Hope everyone's had a nice weekend and got out to go for that hike for their EEP assignment. Sounds like the weather down there in the Front Range was spring-like. So we'll get rolling with week 4. And just like last week, before we start off on this new week, I just wanted to recap last week. So last week, the theme was emergency evacuation plans. I've seen quite a few of them in the Dropbox already, and I look forward to reading them. The ones I have browsed through look great, so thanks for all that hard work. I also wanted to recap CalTopo. I posted that video for the CalTopo software online, and I've seen a lot of that in the EEP, so I hope that was useful. It's really great software, and I use it all the time. So hopefully, if you didn't know about that, you can continue to use it for both recreational and professional purposes. And then the last part of week 3 recap is I just want to thank everyone for the great discussion boards on why we make EEPs and what you learn from the process. It sounds like it was a really useful assignment, and once again, those discussion boards, that's where a lot of our learning takes place. And so I really appreciate the hard work and the thoughtful responses that you all are posting. So that was week 3, and week 3 wrapped up our unit 1. So if you remember, unit 1, the theme for the last 3 weeks was best practices in risk management. And so we began week 1 looking at that ISO 31000 document. Remember that? So I had that handout that summarized the document, and we took that quiz, and that kind of started our baseline knowledge with risk management, and we all started working with a common vocabulary. So that was pretty much what we did on week 1. Week 2 was the massive survey of all things best practices with risk management. And as I said a few weeks ago, I'm well aware it was a ton of information. I know it was a busy week. There's a lot of reading and a lot of posting. But just to recap what we saw in week 2, we looked at record keeping, negligence, legal issues, standards of practice, where everybody grabbed a standard of practice off the internet and posted it. I thought that was a really nice way to share standard of practices across industries. We looked at land management agencies, and we looked at insurance. And last week we looked at EEPs. So those were kind of the 3 weeks in the best practices unit. And we will revisit all of this information in Unit 3. In Unit 3, we will design and implement and kind of create some basic risk management plans and do a little bit of an exercise where we kind of go over the process of making them. And so we're going to come back to all these best practices and utilize them in Unit 3. But where we're going now is Unit 2, Communication and Risk. So we're switching gears now. We kind of leave kind of the nuts and bolts of risk management, the vocabulary and some of the terminology, and we're switching now to kind of the human element in risk management. So Unit 2 is titled Communication and Risk, and these are the learning objectives straight out of D2L for Unit 2. We want to discuss how human factors affect decision making in small group environments. We want to talk about feedback. We'll have a whole session on feedback, and there'll actually be an exercise on giving and soliciting feedback. And kind of the culmination of Unit 2 will be small groups will develop a model for decision making in small groups environment. And you'll see how that plays out as we work through assignment number 2, which I'll explain at the end of this presentation. So there's 3 discussions this week. They focus on decision-making styles, decision-making and judgment, and there's a great article from the New York Times that's a book review of this book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow that talks about cognitive biases and different and kind of ways that our brain works and make decisions. For those of you who took Out 168 with me last week, you'll recognize the System 1 and the System 2 cognitive biases, and we're going to unpack that a bit more this week. But for the decision-making styles discussion board, I created a handout that you'll want to read before you get into that. The handout breaks down this decision-making model, and it's pretty neat. The figures are a little complex, but I think if you read the handout and then spend a little bit of time with the figures and the tables, it'll all start making sense. So there's a handout that kind of accompanies that discussion board. We'll talk about decision-making and judgment, and it's an interesting discussion there. Is there a difference between the two of them? is decision making part of judgment? Is judgment part of decision making? And that's for us to explore on the discussion board. So there's no right or wrong answers there. Just kind of curious on everyone's thoughts and how that kind of plays into risk management and how we make decisions. There is an upcoming assignment that I wanted to briefly touch upon in the video. It's assignment number 2, part A. It's a 2-part assignment. Part A is due next Wednesday, February 15th. So not this Wednesday. So it's due Wednesday of week 5. So you have quite a bit of time, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. It's an independent assignment. You'll write a 1 to 2 page paper about how you make decisions in small group environments. There's basically a simple rubric on D2L, and you can read about what I expect, but it's 100 points. And what you'll do is you'll post that assignment in a small group discussion board, and I'll assign small groups next week. And then each small group will review each other's papers, and that ties into the feedback assignment, which is also coming up. So there's a few assignments in the next week or so. So do stay tuned to D2L and read about those. They're all posted and explained. And if you have any questions about the assignments, just let me know. So I wanted to switch gears and go to D2L briefly. So here's week 4. You can see some of the reading. Here's some of the reading. Here's the handout that I wrote. It's called the VYJ decision-making model. And then here are the discussion boards, decision-making styles, decision-making versus judgment, and the System 1 and System 2 thinking. That's the Kahneman article. Daniel Kahneman is the author of a book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, and that discussion breaks down those System 1 and System 2 cognitive biases. So a few articles to read and a few discussion boards, and yeah, we were switching gears into the decision making and judgment and the human element. So hopefully these discussion boards will be fun and interactive, and we can all learn from each other. That's it for the week. Once again, I'm only an email away, so if you have any questions about the assignments or the discussion boards this week, feel free to send me an email. Have a great week, and we'll be in touch.